I was on a call last week with a group of business owners, and a really important question was asked. What's costing your business more? Not making decisions, wrong decisions, or delayed decisions? And let me tell you, almost unanimously across the group, everyone said delayed decisions. And I found it fascinating. Almost every one of them was dealing with similar types of decisions. So AI tool selection, CRM choices, headcount decisions. Do I hire somebody or do I try a contractor? I see the same trend from small businesses and solopreneurs all the way through large enterprises where we call it due diligence. But ultimately, what we've done is set ourselves up for failure in our decision making process. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you a simple shift to make stronger decisions faster that are right. Get out of that nonstop, never ending due diligence mode, which is productivity theater, really, and make better calls that drive your business forward through the next decade. Let's dig in. So I want to chat briefly about a specific example of this that I think will hit it home and help you understand the real problem behind these delayed decisions. I was talking to a friend who has been trying to determine which CRM to change to for about 6 months. He has a duct tape solution right now. He's got a whole bunch of different tools using zaps and integrations to make things move and then trying to add AI. And it's really become this convoluted mess that's costing probably 5 to 10x more than it needs to. And he has spent the past 6 months researching the different CRM systems, features. He's gone to demos, he's done it all, and he still can't make a decision. And he's stuck. And when I asked him why, it was really simple. He said, look, even if I choose and make the right call, I don't know how to get started. I don't have time for this. And that's where it became so clear. I have seen this in large organizations too. There was a company that we were working with recently where the CEO was really considering some restructuring, layering in agentic into specific functions within the organization, which would mean some contraction in headcount in some functions and then potentially some expansion in others. And it was a big decision. And they were looking at the different agentic tools, they were looking at the different service providers to support all the different roles and just trying to decide, do we proceed? Do we not proceed? When do we make this call? What is it going to look like? And when I asked them what was getting them stuck, it was the same response. Even if we make the call, we're going to be scrambling for the next 6 to 12 months to figure out how to make it work, to roll this out, to build the plan, and to get moving. So what's happening here is we've somehow decided to separate decision making from planning. We assume that once I've made the call, I've made the decision, then I build the plan. That is so backwards because you can't make a great decision without understanding what it would look like to implement, what the next 3, 6, 12 months looks like. And you can't understand that without actually doing some planning. And this is a massive cost. What ends up happening is you make a call and then you wait or delay, or you haven't really taken the time to plan. You extend the timeline because you haven't done the planning up front. And it just cascades down into chaos. And you end up scrambling and looking back thinking it was a wrong decision when in reality, it was a process issue. Let me break this down for you. The decision will become obvious once you're looking at not just the decision itself, but the alternative plans side by side to understand not just whether this is the right tool, but is this the right time? Is this the right function? Is this the right XYZ? Do we have the resources, the capital? Those are the things that end up impacting a decision, but we don't have a structured process for looking at that for each of our options. We end up making the wrong call and wasting a ton of time. My husband, Kyle, we teach this framework that he's brought in from Tier 1 Special Operations. It's a facilitated planning process that we work companies through. So let me walk you through the key components here that you need to look at. The first step is identifying what is the objective of the problem. We need to have complete and total clarity and alignment on what are we solving for? What is the actual problem? Because otherwise you're going to get a bunch of people with different solutions to different problems or trying to achieve different things, and they're going to be moving in different directions. So what is the problem that we have that we're trying to solve for? Not what's the best tool. What's the problem we have now with the tool we have that we need to solve for? From that, we can start thinking of what we call courses of action. Usually there's 3 different options we're looking at. So I'll use the CRM example for simplicity's sake. If we were to come up with 3 courses of action for that CRM scenario, the problem is I have a duct taped solution that's costing me 10x more than it needs to. And it's got really janky integrations that aren't allowing my business to work or function properly. That's the problem. The solutions or the courses of action that we're looking at could be going with a big box CRM. It could be a niche solution with a few integrations, or it could be building your own with Claude or ChatGPT or whatever your tool of choice is. Those are your 3 courses of action. And we're not just going to look at the different tools. We're going to look at the actual plans for each of them to compare and contrast and make the right decision. When we're looking at those plans for each of those, we need to understand the factors that will materially affect the success of the project, which could be time, it could be resources, it could be integrations, it could be those features and functions that we're talking about, the things that we absolutely need the tool, the process, the plan to have in place. Then we're looking at the assets we have. So this is, I have headcount, I have this much capital, I have this much time, I have these tools, I have these integrations. This is what I've got to play with. Then we want the risks. What could happen? What could go wrong? Where could we mess up? What does the contingency look like to fix that? Then what are the success signals? What would tell us that we have a successfully implemented project? What would success look like at the end with this CRM? We've spent this much, we've spent this much time, we've got this tool doing this thing. We're paying, what is the solution or the outcome look like? It seems complicated and long. And it is longer than most people are used to, but that's okay. Because what ends up happening is you practice this longer process of looking through the true plans, the phases. Here's what phase 1 looks like, phase 2, phase 3. This is what we have. This is who's doing what. This is where the risks are. Once you've practiced that and made decisions on bigger plans or projects or pilots or problems or objectives or whatever it is, you start to learn how to condense it down. You don't need a full planning process like this for simple day-to-day risk-free or very low-risk decisions, right? That makes no sense. But when you do have one that's somewhere in the middle, you can start to plan and look at these things in a much more condensed, time-efficient way and make better decisions because you've done the full planning process. So a few rules that make this process work really well. The first is that we need clarity before you start digging into solutions. So we need the true objective or the true problem, the mission. What is it the heck we're doing here? Making sure everyone's aligned on that before you jump into solutions. The next is multiple options. Like I said, it's usually 3 courses of actions we're comparing against. Then we want to look at time boxing. So this could take forever if you let it. We want a time box. So once we understand what the problem is, we're going to separate out into groups and have the team who would be executing the plan, not leadership separated from the project. The actual team is coming in to build those COAs, to build those courses of action. You'll break them out and you could box it into 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour. You want it time boxed. They're going to go in and build out their plan. So say, for example, it's the CRM. We're going to say, Jim and Sally, you're going to go and build the plan in the next 30 minutes for HubSpot if we were going to go with a big CRM box. Alan and Whitney, you guys are going to look at that niche integration version and come up with the plan for that. And then, Amy and Ted are going to go and look at Claude Code and what it would take there. You guys are going to come back. You're going to brief us on what your plan is, what the assumptions you're making, what the phases look like, the time, the resources, the execution, all of that. You're going to brief us on each of those. That way, I'm going to make the call at the end of this on which option to move forward with. Everyone's going to know what the plan looks like because we've gone through this process together. And then we'll move forward into getting set up to execute on it. So time boxing is important because it forces you to go quickly. It forces you to not wait and spend infinite time on this. You can, of course, have them go out and talk and do the demos and give them 2 weeks after the briefing to get, okay, cool, these 2 options look good. This one's absolutely out just based off of the briefing. You 2 go out and talk to the specialists, do the demos, come back. We'll do a deeper briefing to make sure that we've got everything we need and then go ahead. You can do that, or you can have them do that in the process. It's totally up to you. Then it's the decision-making time. So like I said earlier, you've got leadership making the call based off of the plans built by the people doing the work. Hugely important. Now, what type of a decision is it? That's important to know. Is this a collective decision where everyone gets a vote? Is this the leadership team? We're going to have a collective decision. Is it, I'm getting input from the leadership team and from all of you, but I'm making the decision myself? That needs to be clear so that everyone understands who's the deal maker. What's the decision going to look like? And then when yes is said, it's a go. The decision is made. Everyone commits around it. We're all in this together. Go. Final rule is called rehearsal. We want to have a rehearsal of concept before jumping into execution. So if we're going to go through with that big box solution, say Alan chose to go with HubSpot, great. We're going to go through together as a team the phases. We're going to talk about what needs to happen, when it needs to happen. We're going to actually rehearse it as if we're doing it, what the migration looks like, what are the components, what are the steps. So that way, when it comes time to execute, we've done this. We know what could happen. We're all good and clear. Handoffs are clarified, assumptions are tackled. It makes it so much better. Operators do this. They'll, do the full rehearsal before they go out on the operation. It's such an important tool to be able to rehearse before going into execution. You will save yourself infinite time and money on that one. All right. So the big takeaway of this is don't separate your decision-making from your planning. The decision and the planning go together. And so you want to tackle those at the same time whenever possible. You want to look at the different options, have a full plan of what it's going to take, what it would look like. And then you can make a really informed, strong decision, understanding the risks, the implications, the impact, the assumptions you've made. You've gone through that due diligence. Your team's going to know what's happening because the team built the plan and you're all aligned around it. Now, the reason why this is so important in today's day and age is people are moving so fast that they're making calls so quickly without doing that due diligence, and it's biting them in the butt. And then they look back and think, oh, I chose the wrong tool or I did the wrong thing, when in reality, they just didn't plan it properly. They didn't look at the options and actually go through a structured process to make the right call. They rushed and jumped. And I can't tell you enough, this is so worth taking the time to go through. The new competitive advantage this day and age with so much speed is really about clarity and execution. And that comes from this process right here. Take it. I want you to give it a test run. I want you to think about a decision that you've been working through, that you've been sitting on, that you've been researching for a while, and that you've been stuck on, and take the time to work through what your plans, your courses of action would look like for the different options. So if it's a CRM, these are the 3 ones I'm looking at. This is what it would look like to implement this one, and that one. Work through it in a time box situation. You're going to have so much more confidence in making that decision. If it's a headcount choice, a rollout choice, if it's, whatever it is, take the time to build the plans before you make the call, because then when you make the decision, you can jump right into execution with speed, with confidence, and you're going to be able to move things forward with your team way faster. By the end of this week, hopefully you've made a strong decision on something you've been sitting on. It's become more obvious, and now you have a structured plan. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and we will see you in the next episode.
Finally one together unleashed.